Welcome to the Conscious Toolbox podcast, where we ask the question, if your thoughts create your reality, then what kind of tools are you using to shape your experience? The Conscious Toolbox is just that, different tools to assist your conscious awakening. Welcome to the third episode of the Conscious Toolbox. This is Jamie Suss, and in today's transmission, we're going to talk about harnessing the power of your enthusiasm, why I choose hypnotherapy practices for natural healing, and last, there will be a conscious creativity exercise for us to do together. Another part of today's transmission is going to be about using laughter as medicine. You know, in Buddhism, your thoughts are referred to as your sixth sense. We have our five senses, yet they're all receptive. Your thoughts are the only product sense that you have. We see this through how your thoughts become destiny. And what is your destiny but your destination? It's interesting the mental, emotional alchemy that comes from crying and laughter. How do you feel when you're done? Generally lighter, or less burdened by whatever it was that burdened you. This is just another natural way that your mind and body are able to come into equilibrium. Now, everything in nature seeks balance, and our ability to heal ourselves, transmute emotion, and come back to homeostasis is completely natural when in a healthy, stimulating environment. And a sense of humor can be another way to create beneficial experiences. And by beneficial, I mean healthy, joyful, and/or useful experiences. The tools in the Conscious Toolbox today are about coming into balance. This is a fun and interesting episode, so let's dive in. The healing system of Ayurveda teaches us that nourishing our five senses enlivens our health and well-being. I found that it's just as important to cultivate more of our sixth sense, which includes our sense of humor. We've all found ourselves being faced with difficult circumstances full of worry and preoccupation. And then you find a time when a good friend calls and has us laughing at ourselves, or that we are reminded that there's more to life than just one way to view a situation. It's another layer to all this cosmic joke. The very experience of laughter shifts our perspective and it opens us up to new possibilities. We feel internally tickled as we make a connection between the predictable way of looking at something and an outside perspective of the situation. Laughter allows us to temporarily step outside of our space-time bound state of mind and to touch the field of awareness that is boundless and eternal. The American theologian Reinhard Niebuhr wrote, "Humor is a prelude to faith, and laughter is the beginning of a prayer." Now hear me out. Laughter is medicine. There's even a type of modern yoga known as laughter yoga. They focus on bringing on voluntary laughter for the physical and psychological benefits. I find this interesting as science is finally gaining the vocabulary and catching up with what the ancients have written about centuries ago. From the scientific perspective, laughter is an elegant mind-body phenomenon that reduces the production of stress hormones and boosts the immune system. There are some researchers in Japan who found that people with rheumatoid arthritis who watched comic storytelling, that they experienced a significant decrease in their pain and stress hormone levels, as well as an increase in two immune-enhancing chemicals. Humor can decrease anxiety, it can soften anger, it can lighten depression, and increase our pain tolerance. Of course, discussing the value of laughter is about as fulfilling as talking about eating a delicious meal or making love. It's only tangible through the experience. The benefit is not in the description, but in the occurrence and later the reflection of the event. And that's why we reminisce about beautiful experiences. So I encourage you to let yourself get carried away with laughter. Look for humor in life and give yourself permission to laugh out loud when something tickles your funny bone. Let yourself smile. It's okay to find contentment in life, even in the heaviest or loneliest of moments. I invite you to take a humor break, and whenever you need to, lighten up. Be creative. Give yourself permission to commit acts of silliness or irresponsibility and just be generally lighthearted. Take a moment, turn on some music, and have a dance party. Be goofy. Allow yourself to be ridiculous, even if it's only for just 10 minutes. Remember that you don't have to be in a good mood all the time. You just need at least one good belly laugh every day. Now, to come to your senses, you have to get out of your mind. So stay in the heart space and laugh when you can. Take serious what needs to be taken serious. And yes, the world is serious, heartbreaking, and brutal. And laughter is another tool that you can use to alleviate heavy emotions and transmute them. Otherwise, you know how it turns out. Your sense of humor can go dark. They say that what doesn't kill you makes you stronger and gives you a twisted sense of humor. And if sarcasm is funny because it's 90% true, then cynicism is a malignant sense of humor. Cynicism is not wisdom. It is a protective coping mechanism that hinders you from being able to find the beauty and creativity in the chaos of the outside world. It's the difference of getting rained on versus dancing in the rain. Now, this all comes back to harnessing your enthusiasm. And one of the tools I'll share with you today is the acronym HEAL. HEAL. Have you ever heard the expression that enthusiasm is contagious? Well, maybe you've seen the opposite, like when somebody yawns in a group and then later someone else across the room also yawns. And to be more mindful with technology, I look around and I see that cell phones have become the new yawn. So if the brain is hardwired to remember heightened experiences, and in the hunter-gatherer past, this helped humans survive, can we reverse engineer these experiences and use this hardwired natural function to our advantage? Yes, we can. Here's something I learned from evolutionary neuropsychologist Dr. Rick Hansen after attending a Neurodharma retreat. Check out his book, The Neuroscience of Lasting Happiness. To begin, you will have an experience. That's the H. Have a beneficial experience. An enjoyable and useful experience. And if you are not having a beneficial experience in your current life situation, then you can create one. The next part is you are going to enhance the experience as much as possible. Make a snapshot memory of that tremendous moment and include as many of your sensorial experiences into the narrative of the event. What are the sights that you see? What are the sounds that you hear? What are the smells in the air? Who is there with you? What is the occasion? Can you describe the scene? Take a moment and enhance the event that you are intending to remember and make a snapshot memory. Now that you have created an experience and that you have enhanced it with your physical senses, you are going to amplify this memory by including all the emotions associated with this particular experience. Go ahead. What's it feel like to be you, perhaps in a situation where everyone is there celebrating you? What's it feel like to be you on your birthday? And the last part of HEAL is to link the experience. This can be done in different ways. As a hypnosis practitioner, I suggest doing different anchors. This can be a particular hand motion or physical touch that you do with yourself to remind yourself. It can also be through associations. Is there a word, a phrase, symbol, shape, or color that you could associate with this event that will help you to remember it? And now, harnessing your enthusiasm is a great way to use this as your fuel for your creative innovation. How do you design your life? If you're curious about learning a different way of designing your life, come visit lifebycreativedesign.org and check out the Courses tab, where you can join the Vision Board course and you can learn about making your own vision board from a self-guided perspective. Now we're about to take a short break, but before we do, let me ask you, what is the anatomy of your consciousness? Why do you think and feel the way you do? This is your chance to take a deeper look at the ecology of your mindware programming. Because do you feel that life is something that just happens to you? And did you know that on average, children laugh 400 times a day? With adults, it's only about 15 times. So why the gap? What do you think? Did we lose something? Have we forgotten the way that we used to be? Why is it that children seem to cope with life's oddities better than adults? Perhaps it's because they don't fully understand. But I think it's simpler than that. It's because they laugh. As we grow older, we get far too serious. Just look and watch children play. They don't need expensive toys to entertain them, because everything is fun. They are spontaneous and imaginative. And it's only when we become adults that we start to get boring or we get caught in the structure of daily routine. And so what do you think? Do we need to cultivate a different attitude? You bet we do. And one of the keys is a sense of humor. Humor is the way you see things in life, the way you think. It's an attitude and a way of being, not just an event. Perhaps the key lies in becoming more childlike and curious about the many wonders of existence, while maintaining our adult responsibilities, because life happens. Now, when I come back, I will share with you some of what I've learned about the art and science of knowing your own psychology with hypnotherapy. Welcome back to the Conscious Toolbox. My exploration of natural healing modalities, the one that I found to be the most effective when it came to healing the mind and body, has been hypnotherapy. Now I know what you're thinking. Hypnosis. Really? Isn't that all just fake, right? Now perhaps you've seen the stage comedian hypnotists who have their guests do silly things like ballroom dance with an inanimate object because they think it's the most beautiful person in the world. And yes, this is one level of the application of hypnosis. And what it refers to here is suggestibility. How well do you respond to suggestions? Because your mind believes whatever you tell it. Whatever you allow in, it believes it's true. Now, contrary to common belief, you won't divulge any of your secrets or do anything you don't want to do, because you don't give your control over to someone. These are just common myths. What you do, though, is you trust the process, because healing is not an event, it is a process. And what this process refers to is that your default mode network, with its chattering voices of the critic, the narrator, the judge, and the commentator, all of this takes a break. And this allows your conscious adult mind to observe, work with, and transmute whatever is coming up from the subconscious mind. Think of it like weeding your inner garden, planting new seeds and watering them. In this relaxed state, you create your own mind movie, in which you are the star, the director, and also the audience. You know that your mind movie is real because you've also generated an emotional felt experience. And because your emotions are the byproduct of experience, you also know that your brain is being rewired by using your emotions. You know what happy, healthy, and whole feel like, and you are encouraged to live life from that perspective. Now, in the next episode, we will explore the process of thought transformation and the power of the conscious and subconscious mind. And it goes much deeper. But for now, let's just explore some of the healing modality that is hypnotherapy. If you look at the word itself, it comes from the Greek word hypnos, which was the Greek god of dreams. And if you take the etymology further, it reveals another truth. Gnosis, meaning knowledge or an inner knowing, and hypo means below the surface, such as in a hypodermic needle, which means below the skin. So, hypnosis means below the level of knowledge, or to be more specific using our modern day terminology, it refers to accessing the subconscious and unconscious mind and using the dream state of theta brainwaves to do it. Now let me tell you a short anecdote that I learned from a master clinical hypnotherapist. And this is when I was first introduced to hypnotherapy. Now my teacher taught us through this analogy. Is the glass half full or half empty? We've all heard this analogy before. There's also the other analogy of the professor in a stress management class holding the half glass. To begin the lecture, he grabbed the glass of water and raised it above his head as if he was going to propose a toast, and instantly everyone expected if they'd be asked if the glass was half empty or half full as part of the lesson. Instead, though, with a smile on his face, he asked, "How heavy is this glass of water?" He replied, "The actual weight doesn't matter. What really matters is how long I've been holding it. If I hold it for just a minute, it feels very light. If I hold it for an hour, I'll have an ache in my arm. If I hold it for a day, my arm will feel numb and paralyzed. Any longer than that, and I will be very tempted to give up and drop it. In each case, the weight of the glass doesn't change, but the longer I hold on to it, the heavier it becomes." The students were all blown away by the simplicity yet truth of this lesson. However, the professor continued, "The stresses and worries of life are like this glass of water. Carry them only for a short while, and they're manageable. Worry about them for a bit longer, and they begin to create a general discomfort. And if we think about them all day long or longer, we can begin to feel paralyzed and hopeless, incapable of concentrating or focusing on anything else. Self-hatred stems from the feeling of being unlovable, which is a complete lie. You all, each individual one of you, is capable of being loved, capable of giving and receiving love." The professor reminded his students, "It's important to let go of your stresses whenever possible. As early in the evening as you can, put all your burdens down. Don't carry them with you into the night. This can certainly be easier said than done, and in many cases it's actually quite easy if we're mindful about it." Then he continued, "Imagine a glass with muddy water in it is our memory. Filled with water and sediment, the glass is a mixture of fact and fantasy, positive and negative, and our goal is to remove the extra weight of our traumas and limiting beliefs that we are carrying. All of the mud in the glass is the shadow work of our dark side that we have yet to do. It's our job in life to filter the mud of our lives. That's why it is normal to get a disease, because this is the same water that we drink from. We tell ourselves these personal lies, that I'm not good enough, that I'm unlovable, what I do doesn't matter, so I don't have value, which we then personalize to our rational thinking. We then begin to rationalize these rational lies. We learn something new and we repeat it over and over, and neurons in the brain repeatedly fire and release a chemical like glue. Nerve cells that fire together wire together. And if a child experiences stress daily, their body and mind shall create an automatic stress response. And hence, this is what creates the new normal for them as they become an adult. It has become normal to feel stressed and anxious in our society. And this pattern will continue to expand until it is comprehensively interrupted by either pain or disease. Because if you argue for your limitations, surely you will have them. Neurosis is an inner conflict with the outer world. Hence, the muddy water. Now take a moment and think about this analogy of the professor and the muddy glass. This brings me back to why, out of all the ways to heal the mind, body, and spirit, that I prefer hypnotherapy. I choose hypnotherapy because I'm encouraged to take a look at my glass and lessen the density and murkiness of the mud inside my glass. I practice as a consulting hypnotist to help others do the same for themselves. Now let me ask you, who thinks your thoughts, and who feels your feelings? Well, you do, of course. And where do your feelings live? In your body. Your emotions are the byproduct of experience. Now, the mind has no scars. There's just more mud in your glass. This is not to discount other forms of therapy. Please continue taking care of your mental health. What I'd like to share with you here is my experience. Because what I have experienced in this physical state of relaxation is that I am able to create a conversation with my conscious and subconscious mind. Now, when the body relaxes, so does the analytical mind, and the subconscious mind opens up. All of nature seeks balance, and so does the mind. By creating a simple dialogue or experience with the power of imagination, you can encourage the body to heal itself, emotionally, physically, and mentally. And well, to tell the truth, we are all in some way hypnotized by our somebody training that is reinforced by television, radio, media, all to discredit the power of natural health. Because through natural health, your mind and body can heal itself. This is also not to disregard emergency medicine, behavioral therapy, or psychoanalysis. It is to bring your attention back to what is most important when it comes to knowing yourself. It's the return to knowing the art and science of your own psychology, rather than being a stranger to your inner being, which is then a ship tossed by the waves of life on the outside world. This is about knowing who you are on the inside and how you are influenced by your relationships, your interactions with others, and the outside world, so you can make incremental adjustments towards living your best life. You know, when we are born, the experience of birth is so intense on the soul level for both mother and child that we go through this type of amnesia as a baby. Our conscious mind has not yet developed, yet the subconscious mind is completely open and a sponge for whatever it is when it comes to learning experiences. The subconscious mind learns survival mechanisms as an infant is innocent and defenseless. All inputs are registered as the infant learns different programs of am I safe? Am I loved? Am I good? Remember, the subconscious mind is more powerful than the conscious mind, and the programs we learned as we grow up became the foundation for how we grow and expand as adults. The majority of our brain development happens as we grow up, and the brain is not fully developed until the age of 24. You know, this is curious when you observe other animals in nature. For example, you see a horse that can walk within minutes after being born, whereas with us humans, it takes the first 2 years to even begin learning speech patterns. This is one of the stages of your development through the school of life. And as students here in the school of life, we all went into training. Training to be somebody, how to be somebody. And we were trained by the best kind of people because they all thought they were real and somebody. Therefore, they thought that their child, that student, needs to become somebody too. This somebody training is a level of consciousness, which is the separateness that we feel. And so here we are, born with amnesia, and we went into separateness training. We learned that I am me and you are you. We learned that you are somebody and you learn how to be somebody when you learn what it means to be a good boy or a good girl, because your actions led to either receiving love and attention or the opposite. And in this way, we act according to our somebody training. If we act a certain way, we are lauded and praised. When we act in a different way, we are chastised. This leads to other ways that we are trained to be somebody, like when we were asked as kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? You're going to become somebody great. Becoming somebody is a placebo-based belief program that was instilled in us at an early age. This somebody training becomes part of our background function, much like the software on a computer. And once we are somebody, meaning that we have learned and accepted a conceptual map of reality that includes who we think we are and who we think everybody else is, as in we know that a tree is a tree and a rose is a rose, and then we go into somebody special training. I know I went into somebody special training. I was very special. And the biggest illusion of somebody training is that we are all trained in the belief systems and desires of others who've been extensively trained in separateness. They've been trained in the world of human doings rather than the world of human beings. You see it through how your job, your education, your career, or whatever you do, they dictate who you are in the world from a separateness point of view. And then at some point, like me, you woke up. You had an awakening and you knew it by how it felt. No longer a knowingness, it was this sense of beingness, of actually looking through my eyes at the same time as receiving the nowness of the moment. I felt less burdened by my suffering, at one with the world, and inspired to make changes and heal my inner wounds. When one speaks of awakening, it means dehypnotization. By making small adjustments by how you speak to yourself in your inner world, or by being more mindful with the media you consume. This awakening, it means coming to your senses, but of course to do that you have to go out of your mind. I found myself imprisoned in a trap of somebodyness, and I had been lost in the world of somebodying and becoming someone. What is this prison I'm referring to here? Well, it dwells in your consciousness as these self-limiting beliefs. It's the mental fragmentation that comes from being unaware of your mind-body connection. It's the prison of constantly looking for external approval or validation. It's the separateness. It's attachment to being somebody and somebody special. Now, instead of learning about the mind from a purely scientific perspective of Western psychology, I chose to study and took it upon myself to study consciousness and the nature of reality. I began asking, what is consciousness and what is its purpose? Think about this. There have been some recent studies that reveal that your consciousness is not only generated in your brain. And just to remind you that your mind is not in your head is in your mind, and that consciousness is something different. It is that non-physical part of us. It's that flow of energy and information that connects all of us to each other and the living world. This is part of the theory of quantum cognition. And with this quantum view, you begin to see that there's an interconnected universe full of energy and information, and where human beings radiate their emotional and mental energy and information out into the world. For me, the world became a holodeck of mirrors, where my interactions with others were these mirrors of my internal world. And when I first awakened, there were these feelings of coming home, of being at peace with myself, that everything is so familiar. And I remembered all I could think was, where have I been all this time? How have I cut myself off from this love, this contentment, and this satisfaction? You know, I had been starving to death, and here I was in an ocean of plenty. And after time, I would come back to my somebodyness and get distracted by the outside world. And I found it difficult to stay in this state of beingness, and I saw that I had to work on myself as a way of extricating my awareness from the exclusive identification with my ego and its structures of somebodyness. And through that, I would have major breakthroughs and breakdowns when it came to unlearning so many habits that I maintained when I thought I was somebody. And in this trap of somebodyness, I realized that I had just been rearranging or redecorating my prison cell of me. The music I listened to, the movies I watched, the labels and roles I played, regardless of how they changed, my separateness would return. I had set sail on a sinking ship, and I was simply rearranging the furniture of my own prison. I had learned through my somebody training to be attached and identify with my desires, with my needs, and with my wants. And from this perspective of somebody special training, I lived my life from a very self-centered and egotistical point of view. It was a world based on the concept of me, a mini empire of me, and it was difficult to see beyond my own experience of life to truly be compassionate and empathize with others, because I was separate. Now, this is not to stop or to deny that these identities or these labels exist. This is your ego, and this is another tool in your conscious toolbox that has been sharpened and honed by your somebody training. That is to say, you learned who you are based on the outside influences of the world around you. Yet when I tap into this state of beingness, I learned that I could go beyond that state of my ego, because I had this ability to extricate my identity from those things that I see, because I see that I am so much more, and there is so much more to the world that I experience around me. Now, don't push those things away. Accept what it is, and then integrate it. It is not a case of this or that, or either or all or nothing. This is a case of both and more. And you see in this way that life is a quantum school. So take the curriculum and come to an understanding and an understanding of who you are. Try being human. You see, neurosis is a level of cognitive dissonance. It is an internal conflict with the outer world that interrupts your life to bring you a message of sorts. It is this feeling of being cut off from your own powers, that you are isolated from your own beingness in order to resolve the paradox. Now the world is full of paradoxes, and we are all walking paradoxes ourselves. So something that I have enjoyed as a result of hypnotherapy is less dissonance and fewer paradoxes. I am encouraged to resolve them and to live a more fulfilling daily life. Now, depending on your Be Somebody training, the first step of unlearning your separateness is to acknowledge that a change in our way of thinking is needed. And an easy way to determine that our lives need to change is to be aware and take note of how often you are afflicted by feelings of blame, shame, guilt, anxiety, regret, or resentment. It is not to deny these feelings or suppress or repress them, but to go into them fully and to understand and understand why they are there. A teacher of mine would say that the emotion of resentment is akin to drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And in that way, it poisons the body with toxic neurotic responses. Now, these neurotic symptoms, they act as signals communicating the necessity of change. The longer you hold on to them, they begin to act like little time bombs that will erupt in different ways in the mind-body complex and in your relationships in life. Now, Carl Jung notes the neurotic suffering may consist in compelling the individual to come to terms with the foundation of his being and with the world, and thereby gain a better understanding and knowledge of his limits and possibilities. And in this way, he holds it in a positive light. So yes, be more mindful and catch these symptoms and be with the uncomfortable feelings. Transmute them up and out from within yourself. And unless you catch them, you will continue to be consumed with this internal conflict with the external world. Now, in this light, neurosis has a positive tone as it allows the individual to come to a deeper understanding of yourself, and as you get the deeper message of your beingness, that you exist and that you realize it. When you sit in meditation and you rest in the I am presence of beingness, you can ask yourself about the inner workings. And when you do this, you find that the outer influences fade away. Do you see that there is the neurosis and that there is also the person? There is suffering, yet there's also the sufferer. And in this way, you can see that yes, life is pain, and yes, suffering exists, and at some point and on some level, suffering is a choice. how do you lessen the mud in your glass? And when I come back, I will share with you some other possibilities with hypnotherapy. This is the Conscious Toolbox. Now, in a dream state of hypnosis, you are able to create your own mind movie with the power of your imagination. Transforming the mud in your glass is only one aspect of how you can use hypnotherapy to heal. Why would you want to revisit past painful memories, you ask? Well, if that memory still affects you today, then it's not the past then, is it, really? It's today, and you are still microdosing your nervous system with those emotions. Although this may have happened a long time ago, or even recently, it still affects you today. Well, then that's the day, and it still draws your awareness away from being in the present moment. Now, I can't change what happened in the past, and neither can you. What you can do is you can change how you feel about the event that happened, how you view it, how you understand its significance, how you look at yourself then and now, and the lesson that you learned within all of this experience. And by revisiting the experience in this way, you are in a safe and protected space. You are encouraged to release the emotional energy around you, and then as you do, you take a second look at what happened from this augmented perspective. You reflect on that memory in a way that gets to the root cause of what still affects you today. And with your adult mind, you see a different picture about whatever it was that happened. Now, in this trance state, you can release your somebody training and get to the root of the dissonance and transform it, rather than constantly rehashing old traumatic events or using the first few sessions of therapy appointments in order to get to know the therapist. In my experience, a qualified clinical hypnotherapist has the capacity to be both a guide through the subconscious mind and a journalist of the adventure we take. And this has helped me to overcome my own blockages and to be inspired to live the best version of myself. Now remember, you think your thoughts and you feel your feelings. Your mind may not have any scars, but the physical body does. And where are your feelings? Yep, they live in your body. Your body is the physical record of your subconscious mind. And you know how we talk about muscle memory in sports, which refers to training the body with specific movements until they become a second nature. Well, your emotions are the same for the mind-body complex. Muscle memory here also refers to the emotions that we keep pent up in us. By releasing the blockages in the mind, the body can activate the parasympathetic nervous system, your system of rest, digest, and replenish. And vice versa. If we release the trauma suppressed in the body, your experience of life becomes more enjoyable. So remember to drink some water, to breathe, and do some form of conscious movement. Help your body to release. Why I absolutely love hypnotherapy is that your mind can create such an emotional felt experience to heal or to understand yourself on a deeper level. This makes it completely real for the body and helps build new habits by rewiring the brain. Most notably, hypnotherapy is the most natural and effective way of healing. When people have tried everything else and nothing worked, they would arrive at hypnotherapy and it transformed their lives. When it comes to healing and hypnosis, what this refers to is to create balance and harmony between your conscious and subconscious mind through the power and receptivity of suggestion. Your mind hears what you tell it, and in this case, you can open a conversation with your inner workings. Remember that one animated movie about the kid and the main characters were all of her emotions and her memories inside? Well, what if you could create a dialogue with the inner and outer perspectives? What if the character in that movie could talk with her emotions, her belief systems, and memories? Makes a very different kind of mind movie now, doesn't it? You can use your emotions as the driver of your healing in combination with your ability to visualize and steer your life in the direction that you know benefits your potential the most. This is how we can harness the power of enthusiasm and utilize its energy as creative fuel for building our dreams into reality. Harmony within, harmony without. Or as the expression goes, there will be no peace in the world until you know peace inside of yourself. Now, regarding the emotional charge behind those muddy, murky memories, the brain is hardwired to remember events that will help us to survive, in the hunter-gatherer sense of the word. And as it was taught to me, your mind is Velcro for negative experiences and Teflon for positive ones. So again, your brain is organized like this for survival, and it is the same brain that we have inherited today. Every day we endure stressful events and our survival mechanisms begin to kick in. These coping responses helped us to survive in the past, but as I mentioned above, they become the new normal when it comes to stress. This new normal over time begins to affect your body and your mind's ability to rest, digest, and recuperate. Stress in and of itself isn't bad. Remember, there is eustress and distress. Eustress meaning good and dis meaning bad. Now, what makes something distressful is how much longer we hold on to it after the event has passed. Do you have any memories from the past that still affect you today? Well, that's an example of the mud in your glass. Curious how you never see any animals seeking vengeance or developing personality disorders, anxiety, or depression. In nature, the animal just shakes it off and goes on with their day. Us humans, we can hold on to difficult memories for the rest of our lives. On one level, it's called a grudge or resentment. And remember, the emotion of resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. In my experience with hypnotherapy, I've been able to allow my mind and body to release trauma, heal, and transform my life for the better. And it's a form of mental hygiene that applies the meditative mind towards balancing the body and releasing stress. You see, the majority of hospital visits are stress-related. Chronic stress over time becomes a discomfort and illness, and let's face it, in some way, shape, or form, We all have PTSD from just being alive. Yet the body won't hurt itself without the mind. So let's talk about this a little further. Do you have a story from your past that still affects you today? Well, then that story isn't in the past, and it is part of your experience on the micro level right now. Is there a residual emotional charge with this story? You know, the heavy emotions of anger, hate, betrayal, fear, envy, abandonment, loss, attachment, grief, guilt, and shame, just to name a few. Then you are now microdosing your nervous system and the emotions and the neurochemical cocktail that are associated with that memory or the underlying belief that resides in your subconscious mind. And remember, if 70% of your thoughts today are the same as the day before, how long have you been holding this heaviness? When someone asks you, why are you so moody? And you respond, well, I am this way because when I experienced XYZ, my life changed. Now, XYZ could be anything. It could be a bad breakup, the loss of a loved one or child, the loss of a job, an accident, a natural disaster. These events in life generate an emotional reaction inside of us. If you hold on to or suppress the emotions longer, they become your mood. Over time, this emotional reaction becomes your temperament. And by engaging with your heaviness rather than avoiding or dismissing it, you can lessen the impact or even release the intensity your memories still have on you today. A dis-ease in the mind over time becomes a disease in the body. And as I understand it now better from my own personal experience, is that thoughts and suppressed and repressed emotions become symptoms of sickness that are calling your attention and awareness. And because your subconscious mind is a quantum computer compared to the desktop of your conscious mind, these heavy emotions and memories, they become the background programs operating out of habits and coping mechanisms. The biggest thing that hypnotherapy helped me realize about myself and encourage me out of depression has been the tool of understanding the subconscious mind. By understanding the art and science of my own psychology, I could better heal myself in a way using the meditative state of mind. The power of the subconscious mind is based on habits and repetitive thoughts. The habits and coping responses that I had developed to soothe myself no longer served me because I had had enough of being sad and depressed. What had come to light for me was that my depression was preceded by long periods of stagnation. And let's face it, when you are experiencing suffering, most people don't know how to respond except through the lens of their own suffering. Or worse, when they try to empathize with what the experience would be like if it had happened to them. It's a common thing I heard and I've even caught myself doing. You know, here's an easy example is when people reminisce about old injuries when you're the person who's injured. Now, in a moment, we're going to take a short break. And if you'd like to learn more about the Conscious Creativity Invitation that begins on each new moon, spiritual life coaching, or other services, go to lifebycreativedesign.org. Now, before we do, there's something I want to share with you from my own conscious toolbox that has helped me heal the most around forming new daily habits. And my habits have been around conscious movement, such as a yoga and qigong practice, along with meditation and humor. Some days the laughter yoga floats between fits of crying, cackling, sobbing, and then laughing again. The funny thing for me is how much different crying and sobbing felt when my tears changed with some laughter and singing. I found the life lesson inside of the experience, and what was left was a level of contentment. I was grateful for the experience of grief because it continues to teach me lessons about patience and about my own personal strength today. It's all part of the cosmic joke, right? We take ourselves so seriously with our somebody special training that we have fossilized certain patterns. The need to be right, the desire to control, the game of self-importance. These are all just silly, fossilized patterns of ego games that we learned so early in life. And once you realize that it's all a game, then you can just drop it. You know, I really used to beat myself up. And after establishing a regular meditation practice, I came to the perspective that it was just a game that my monkey mind played. It would take my attention away from the moment, and that was the game that my ego mind wanted to do because it was avoiding being disciplined. So I began to observe it, and when it would happen more and more. And then the game became easy to identify as a distraction. And these days, I am able to maintain a more focused attention and open awareness for longer periods of time. This is all easier said than done, I know. It takes 21 days to break a habit, and another 21 days to create a new one. Just beginning by making that habit to be more mindful with your thoughts is a good place to start. You can envision them like the ticker on the bottom of a 24-hour news network. They're just small snippets of information that are incomplete ideas that jump from one random topic to the next. This is not to tune these thoughts out, it is to tune into them. Training the mind is also another part of the cosmic joke. You are the co-author of your life by the media you consume, the people you surround yourself with, the food you eat. All of it is by your choice. The quantity, the quality, all of it. Do you get the joke of existence? You are what you judge. You are what you eat. Now, before I started doing yoga about 20 pounds ago, I just thought it was a bunch of hot, sweaty gay men and soccer moms all cramming themselves into hot yoga studios to contort themselves into strange and weird positions and then just try not to fart. Since then, I discovered what yoga really is. That it's a science and philosophy of the mind, body, spirit, and it's not just a coordinated exercise routine for acrobats, gymnasts, and dancers. Now, I know I'm not the only one, and we've all been there in a yoga class, either trying not to let one squeak out or holding on for dear life, or praying that the instructor would please just crack a window or door. Yet here's the truth of what I found, and that it's better to let one fly if you gotta. Because if you don't, the fart will travel up your spine and become other things like shitty ideas, verbal diarrhea, or a self-defecating sense of humor. It's all just another way that the emotional body detoxes. Because if you don't get the joke, then the joke's on you. But does it make it any less funny? When it comes to healing the mind, body, and spirit, how I understood it is that if you create balance with 2 out of the 3, the last one will naturally fall in line. And what does that mean to actually be sane? Sane refers to sanitize or cleanliness, but what does this mean when it comes to your sanity, to your own personality? It means that while external hygiene is important, it's only one part of how we stay healthy. It's an interesting term, brainwashing. Using hypnotherapy, I've been able to deeply release the unresolved emotional issues that have come up in my life by taking the emotionally charged weight and mud out of my glass. I've been able to do it by making a habit of creating health, because that's so much easier than curing illness and depression. Now, when I come back, we will do a conscious creativity exercise together. Welcome back to the Conscious Toolbox. To sum up today's transmission, laughter, humor, and joy are necessary parts of life. Life is serious, precious, and can be traumatic. The power of laughter and crying is the emotional mental alchemy that happens when we get out of our minds in order to come to our senses. So how do you feel when you finished a good laugh? I mean, a genuine belly laugh. Now the same goes for crying. The phenomenon of healthy laughter and shedding therapeutic tears allows you to transmute the heaviness and mud in your glass into something lighter. So I invite you to have at least one good belly laugh today, and tomorrow, and the next day. The other tool that I want you to remember today is the acronym HEAL. Have an experience, enhance it, amplify the emotions, and link the feelings to the body using associations. This tool allows you to make incremental adjustments, whether it is just when you notice the incessant thoughts or self-limiting beliefs, or when it comes to building your best life. Remember, the first step is observing and acknowledging. Then you accept and make incremental adjustments in a new direction. And last for today, hypnotherapy has given me a chance to have breakthroughs and inner realizations of who I am and what my purpose is in life. The conscious creativity exercises that I share ask you to look at the mind movie that you create and make beneficial adjustments, and then express it, usually by creating some piece of art or writing about it. And that's the last tool I'm going to share with you today, is the conscious creativity exercise. This tool is inspired by a workshop I attended some years ago, and it was hosted by a woman who now holds women's writing and yoga retreats. So if you're inspired, check her out at The Storyteller Within. So here's today's prompt. Take some minutes to reflect and write about this topic. I've made a habit of. Make a short list of habits, and whichever one has a stronger emotional charge, begin writing about it. What habits have you had or created that hold you back? What types of inner saboteur actions, distractions do you have? You know the ones I'm referring to. The inner sabotage kind of excuses. What types of habits do you have? I've made a habit of. Take a moment, brainstorm right now while we talk about it. And in a few minutes, you're going to write about it. And after you've written about it, reread what you wrote and then ask yourself, well, if I didn't have this habit of XYZ, what would my life look like? If this bad habit was gone from my life, how would I live each day? Take a moment, reflect on that, write about it. If you didn't have this bad habit, how would you live each day? Now, the last part of this exercise is that you have to fire the inner saboteur. Write them a pink slip and be sure to tell them, Dear inner saboteur, I'm sorry, this job is no longer available, and your services are no longer needed. Goodbye. So this is the conscious creativity exercise today. Make a short list of habits. Take that habit and transform it. If you didn't have this habit, how would your life be different? And what you're going to do is you're going to fire the inner saboteur, where that bad habit comes from. So remember, your subconscious mind is comprised of habits amongst other things, and the habits you use to cope with difficult life experiences, the excuses, and the inner saboteur can all be dropped. You can weed your inner garden, you can water new seeds, and you can do this by making new habits. So what I want to leave you with here today is, your mind is a garden, your heart is the fertile soil, your thoughts, emotions, memories, belief systems are all the seeds. From this perspective, it is your choice. If you choose to grow flowers, fruits, and trees, or if you choose to grow weeds. See you in the next transmission.